Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Denise Salcedo, and I am stoked because today we got Speedball Mike Bailey back in the channel. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Denise. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I'm so excited to chat with you because the last time we actually sat down like this and had a nice little lengthy conversation, it was, a couple of years ago when you had just came back, to wrestling in the United States and we had like a long sit down. And since then, you were hustling in the indies pretty much everywhere, doing stuff with TNA. And then now you're in AEW. So much has changed since then, but I'm going to start off by asking you, how are you? How's everything?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, honestly. My time in All Elite Wrestling has been absolutely fantastic. The best 2 months of my life. I have absolutely zero complaints. And I mean, I worked incredibly hard to get to where I am. And I'm glad that so far it's been everything that I wanted it to be.
Hearing you say 2 months kind of like baffles me because in my mind, I felt like it was a little bit longer, only because you've already had so many matches in AEW. Like you came in red hot and we're like, bang, 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 bang. Like, let's get all of these matches in. So let's start there. With AEW, they've made this such a big name for themselves, and a lot of people, want to be part of AEW and to finally get that opportunity like you mentioned because you have been working hard and a lot of people that have been following your career know that. So when you finally got hired by AEW, what was that whole process like?
So to correct myself, I think you're right. I think it's been closer to 3 months. I started like March 19th or 20th or something like that. So I think it's probably closer to three. But I mean, I think the whole process, right, is has been really happening for the past 20 years, even before AEW was a thing. I mean, I felt right at home as soon as I started. I know and have worked with a lot of the AEW roster I had already. And I mean, just being part of PWG in 2016. And that was like at that time, that was the biggest thing I'd ever accomplished. And it was really one of my first times in pro wrestling where I was with a full locker room of like minded wrestlers who wanted to put on the exact same kind of wrestling that I wanted to. So, of course, when All Elite Wrestling came to be and seeing how it grew over the past few years, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. Right. So to eventually make it there has been absolutely fantastic.
Dude, I feel like there are certain people where you're just like, oh my God, if they come into AEW, I got like 50 dream matches for this person. I know that I want to see happen. And when you came in, I remember there was this excitement of the air of like people that had seen you wrestle were like, okay, like he's going to be so fast. Like he's going to do all these speed kicks. It's going to be very, very cool. And then there was a mix of people that were like, oh, this is going to be my first time seeing Speedball Mike Bailey. And people were like, yo, this Speedball guy is pretty damn cool. Like for those that had just discovered you. And so there was a mix of crowd. From your perspective, like how did things change the second you came into AEW? Like, what did you notice how the fans were reacting to you?
So I this is kind of what I've built my whole career on, right? Being the underdog, coming in and people, especially earlier in my career, people coming in and going, "Who's this guy? Why is he wearing his taekwondo outfit to the ring?" And even over the last 3 years before I joined AEW, doing a lot of American independent wrestling, even though I was wrestling on television, like very often, there was still a huge segment of audience. I think it's probably this is the average that I give out. About 50% of the audience at independent wrestling shows just didn't know who I was. Just because that's the nature of independent wrestling. They don't know who the wrestlers are. They're just looking to have a good time, and the promotion doesn't like necessarily carry the brand or name value for the audience to know who all the wrestlers are, right? So I'm used to that, and I was expecting that coming into AEW. I was expecting people to be like, "Oh, who's this? What's going to happen?" But I remember the my theme song says Speedball in the early parts, and at my debut, as soon as it gets Speedball, there was a loud reaction from the audience, and there were Speedball chants even before I wrestled, and it felt really good to see that even though not everyone knew who I was, enough people did, and those people were willing to cheer me on loudly enough that it would get everyone on board. I mean, that felt really good. But since then, honestly, my social media has exploded. My YouTube and Twitch numbers have gone way up. And I mean, I it took me 20 years to build this, 20 years to get ready for this, and now it's time to really put everything into action, and it's been fantastic to see it pay off.
It really has been, man. And I love hearing that perspective from you because when you have built such a reputation, because I think the way that I described you was this guy I've seen wrestle so many times, right? I've seen you wrestle at live events, I've seen you wrestle on television, you name it. And not once can I honestly sit here and say I ever saw a Speedball Mike Bailey match that I was bored at or I didn't like. Not once. And that's hard. That's a very, very hard reputation to keep, but you have really built that because I feel like no matter where you were in a room with like 10 people or 1,000 people, you always go at a certain pace, and I feel like the fans recognize that too. So when you were going into AEW, there was already that buzz because you had already built this reputation of being this worker that people look forward to watching.
Well, obviously, if you're familiar with my story, I was banned from the United States. I couldn't enter for 5 years, which means that I was going to have to, look ahead to those 5 years and try to really make myself undeniable. And when opportunities like the possibility of joining AEW, would come back, then they wouldn't have a choice but to let me in. And in those 5 years, I worked for DDT a lot, which is a promotion in Japan that I absolutely love. And that's kind of where I learned about the difference between like subjectively good professional wrestling and objectively good professional wrestling. And in DDT, they do a lot of like they mess around with the format, right? They do a lot of weird pro wrestling, and sometimes you would have to do something like wrestle on gym mats in the middle of a shopping mall, just in the middle of the day, right? When people buy tickets to a pro wrestling show, they're expecting to see pro wrestling. They're expecting the performers. They're excited to see them. When pro wrestling just happens and you're off to buy a new pair of jeans, it's different. But you can still make it good, and to be able like to build the skill set where people can see professional wrestling and they don't expect it, they don't know that it's there, they don't know what it is, they don't even necessarily want it, and you still have to bring these people on your side, you still have to give them a great show, you have to make sure that they then follow the product. I think that's an entirely different skill set to have as a professional wrestler, and that is absolutely what I wanted to bring back to America when I was finally able to join one of the major promotions.
It's like one of those things where all of they always say, right, that every single thing leads you or prepares you for those big moments in life. And so I feel like that was like, your thing, like your journey, everything has led you to one thing to another to another. And that's been incredible to see. So you get with AEW, you sign with AEW, you go, you enter this locker room with people that you're familiar with, that you've wrestled before, some people you're not familiar with. What was your experience like, entering that AEW locker room, and what has that experience been like, being there with so many, very, very, what they say, we're the best wrestle, right? So very, very skilled talents.
I mean, yeah, "We're the best wrestler" is not just the tagline, that is how I would describe the locker room. I mean, everyone is very much focused on giving a performance, and you've got all of your like, it's not just your favorite wrestlers, it's also all your favorite wrestlers are in that locker room, and the level of thought and deliberation that goes behind the matches in AEW and how everyone works on that collectively in order to present the best wrestling show is really what I want out of professional wrestling. It's what I love. There is nothing that will get me going more than discussing pro wrestling methodology and match structure and how to go about putting these things together to make sure that you put on a good show. And I am so glad that AW has so many people who approach wrestling the exact same way that I do, which is in a deliberate, scientific, controlled approach.
I love that. It was so funny because a couple of weeks ago, I forgot what we were watching, what we were talking about, but you came up in the conversation on one of my podcasts, and I remembered an interview that I did with you at was I think it was like Wrestling Revolver or something, and we were
Mhm.
doing a show in LA, and I did an interview with you, and I remember you said when I asked you about your speed kicks, you said, "Oh, I do 1,000 a day, right?" And during the match, I was thinking, when he said that, I thought it was a joke. Now I'm thinking he was 100% not joking when he said he does 1,000 a day. So now I'm coming back here and I'm like, yo, I'm like, what? I'm like, it is one of those things where I'm like, dude, like your striking and everything that you do is very fun. So when you say you look at wrestling in a very strategic, scientific way, I see it.
Yeah, and I think that's necessary in order to be able to perform at the level that we do here. I mean, pro wrestling is not what it was, especially. I mean, American pro wrestling is no longer what it was in the early '90s, where you can just go out there, be big, and be a character and perform. Like, there's enough people that can do that now that you need to do all that and be extremely rigorous about how you approach it. On top of all that.
Okay, so speaking of that, I got to get into your AEW Dynasty match. That triple threat, Kenny Omega, Ricochet, you, my goodness, that was like when I saw that match was announced, that was the match I was looking forward to for Dynasty. Talk to us about what it was like being in the ring with Ricochet and Kenny Omega.
Man, I cannot tell you about how much I loved that match. I thought it was perfect. I thought we nailed every single aspect of it. I mean, Kenny Omega, obviously, I think is one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best wrestler in the world. Him and Okada, which is it's been fantastic to have both of my pay-per-view matches in AEW already against Omega and Okada, who have had the best professional wrestling matches in history. I mean, I'm sure that's debatable, and there's certainly a subjective part to that. But I mean, I there's not a very good argument that can be made against that, and the fact that they're going to have another match at All In on July 12th is even more amazing. But yeah, Kenny Omega, there's a lot uh, of him, of myself that I see in him. uh just his, if you look at his journey, right, he was in developmental in the US, and then he was not happy with that, so he decided to go to Japan, and he went to DDT for many years because that is the kind of wrestling that he liked, and that's what he wanted to do. The first time we got to work together, Kenny and I, we had a singles match in PWG, and I was amazed by how his brain worked, by how he approached professional wrestling, and I kept looking at him for those nearly 10 years in between both times we wrestled. So to finally be back in there with him really meant a lot to me. And Ricochet, someone again who took a completely different path, but was still part of the same group as a lot of the people in AEW now, who was in PWG in 2016, back at the real boom of American independent wrestling. And I think that seeing the path of Ricochet has been absolutely fantastic. I think what he's doing now in AEW is terrible, and I hate it. But it works really well for him. So good for him. So yeah, to be that match really meant a lot to me, and the fact that that is going to be, forever my first pay-per-view match in AEW is I think really great, and it set the tone really well for the rest of my time in AEW.
You mentioned that match with Okada. We got to get into that. I mean, one on one. Oh man, what was your like anticipation? How did you feel like heading into it, during it, and coming out of it?
Calm, fully relaxed, and zen, because that is how Okada approaches it. That is how he is as a person. And you kind of have to match those vibes if you want to be able to be in the ring with Okada. I feel like that happens a lot with him. People kind of get nervous, not just around him, but just around pro wrestling, and he does not. And if you don't keep your heart rate as low as his, you kind of can't keep up. But he is, I mean, he's one of the best for a reason. He's surprising, he's explosive, he's athletic, and he knows exactly when to turn it on and he knows exactly when to chill. And I think that man, that all came to play in that drop kick he gave me that at the finish of that match, very regrettably. A fantastic match, but he caught me out of nowhere with that drop kick mid shooting star double knees. I mean, it's bittersweet because it always hurts to take a loss. But man, did that look beautiful.
It was. The match was so much fun. Again, sorry you lost, but I had a great time with the match. It was very, very fun. And now, like, you mentioned Kenny Omega, Ricochet, Okada. You've had bouts with, so many people now at this point. With the roster that AEW has, who is on that list that you're just like, ooh, I cannot wait until they make the announcement that I get to wrestle this person or that person? Like, who are the people you're really excited to get in the ring with?
There's too many to name, but right now on the top of my list is that I've never wrestled before. Uh, Hangman Page is a big one. I think he is absolutely one of the best, and I'm super pumped to see him wrestle John Moxley. I think Brody King is absolutely fantastic. Whenever Darby Allen comes back from climbing Mount Everest, I hope he and I get to spend some time in the ring together. But one of the people with whom I have been looking forward to be in the ring with is MJF, and it's finally happening tomorrow when me, Kevin Knight, and Commander take on the Hurt Syndicate, of which he is now a part. I had singles matches with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin in the past, but now that you throw MJF into the mix, it becomes a whole other thing. But yeah, I think MJF really. Um, there is no one in the world who does MJF quite like MJF, if that makes sense. And I think there's a lot I could get out of working with him. So I really hope I'm excited for Wednesday. That's going to be an amazing match, and I hope we get to do a lot more together in the future after that.
Man, I'm stoked. Some of the names that you mentioned, I'm like, please, hopefully we get to see those soon. All of those sound great and like totally different matches. And you mentioned that trios match that's coming up at Summer Blockbuster. Dang, it's always, it's going to be, a 4 hour show, but there are so many cool matches that have been announced. Dang, I can't wait for Summer Blockbuster. It's going to be a good time. So I can't wait to see your match. I can't wait to see what will happen with you and MJF and the Hurt Syndicate down the line, seeing what happens there. Mike, we're almost about out of time here for our interview, but before we go, I do want to give you the opportunity to, maybe tell the people like, hey, what are some of your goals right now, like within AEW? I know you mentioned some of the opponents that you wish to have someday, but like, is there like, do you got a championship in mind? Do you got like any specific goals for yourself that you want to make sure you hit?
I mean, mostly I want to make sure that I am viewed worldwide and in AW as one of the best. I mean, I want all the championships. I think me and Kevin Knight make a great partnership. And I think if we win our match at Summer Blockbuster, that would really put us in the running for a tag team championship. I mean, I went after the international championship, I went after the continental championship. That didn't work. So I hope and I think that winning those tag team championships with Kevin Knight would be a great place to start. And then, maybe taking on the trios championship with Commander as well. But as always, I want all of the belts, every single one of them. I want to hold them all at the same time.
Ooh, hell yeah. And I also think that you and Kevin Knight, like Kevin Knight's been killing it too. Someone also recently joined AEW and he's just been like, yo, hey, good stuff all across the board. So, Mike, again, thank you so much for joining me here on the channel once again. I can't wait to see what you continue to do with AEW. Please tell the people where they can follow you, support you, and continue to check out all of the work that you're doing.
I'm at Speedball Bailey on all social media platforms. I have a YouTube channel where I post vlogs. I do Twitch streams a couple times a week, but mostly watch AEW on HBO Max, TNT, TBS. Summer Blockbuster is tomorrow, so do not miss that. Super excited for my match on that show. So yeah, just keep watching. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to post all of the links in the description box below where you can support Mike Bigley, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.